The lotus feet of our spiritual master of the only way by which we can the mercy of Krishna, emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment, he is my Lord, birth after birth. From him ecstatic rain. Yasodananda Rajajana Ranjana Yasodananda Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Gopi Janvallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janvallabha Girivardhari Yasodananda Brajajana Ranjana Yasodananda Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari 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 Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Gopi Jana Baba Girivardhari Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radhe Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Shri Radha Madhava Radha Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayam Mudirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we first offer respectful obeisances to the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, supermost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and Srila Vyasadeva, the author. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed to practically kneel. And thus loving service unto the glorious Lord who is praised with transcendental hymns becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 4, Vidura approaches Maitreya, text number 22. Yatra Narayano Devo.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Midu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Midu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Tepate Lokabhavano.
Tepate Lokabhavano.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Mridu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Midu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Tepate Lokabhavano.
Tepate Lokabhavano.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Midu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Midu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Tepate Lokabhavano.
Tepate Lokabhavano.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Mridu Ivram Tapodirgam.
Mridu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Was that T?
Yep.
Okay. Tepate Lokabhavana.
Tepate Lokabhavano.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Mridu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Mridu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Tepate Lokabhavanau.
Tepate Lokabhavano.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Yatra Narayano Devo.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Midu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Mridu Tivram Tapodirgam.
Tepate Lokabhavano.
Tepate Lokabhavano. Yatra Narayano Devo. Narascha Bhagavan Rishi. Mridu Tivram Tapodirgam. Tepate Lokabhavano.
Yatra Narayana Deva.
Yatra Narayano Deva.
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi.
Mridutibram tapodirgam
Tripate lokapavano.
Tepate lokapavano
Yatra Narayana Devo
Yatra Narayano Devo
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi
Narascha Bhagavan Rishi
Mridutibram
Mridutibram
Tapodirgam
tapodirgam
Tripate
Tepate
Lokapavano
lokapavano
Yatra.
Yatra
Where? Narayana.
Narayana,
The personality of Godhead.
the personality of God,
Deva.
Deva,
By incarnation.
by
incarnation
Naraha.
Nara,
Human being.
human being,
Cha.
Cha,
Also.
also,
Bhagavan.
Bhagavan,
The Lord.
the Lord,
Rishi.
Rishi,
Great sage.
great sage,
Mridu.
Mridu,
Amable to everyone.
Amo, everyone,
Tivram.
Tiram,
Severe.
severe,
Tapaha.
Tapa,
Penance.
penance,
Diegam.
Digam,
Very long.
very long,
Tepate.
Tepate,
Performing.
performing,
performing
Lokabhavano.
Lokavano,
Welfare of all living entities.
welfare of all living entities.
Translation. There in Barik Ashram, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His incarnation is the sages, Nara and Narayan, has been undergoing great penance since time immemorial for the welfare of all amiable living entities. Okay, please repeat. There in Badrik Ashram,
There, Badrik Ashram,
the personality of Godhead
the personality of Godhead,
and His incarnation
in His incarnation,
is the sages Nara and Narayan,
as the sages Nara and Narayan,
has been undergoing great penance
have been undergoing great penance
since time immemorial
since time immemorial,
for the welfare of all amiable
For the welfare of all
amiable
living entities.
living entities.
Srila Prabhupada's Divine Purport.
Yes,
Badrik Ashram in the Himalayas, the abode of the Nara Narayana sages, is a great place of pilgrimage for the Hindus. Even up to the present, hundreds and thousands of pious Hindus go to pay respects to the incarnation of Godhead, Nara Narayana. It appears that even 5,000 years ago this holy place was being visited by such a holy being as Uddhava. And even at that time the place was known to be very, very old. This particular pilgrimage site is very difficult to visit for ordinary men because of its difficult situation in the Himalayas, in a place which is covered by ice almost all year. A few months during the summer season, people can visit this place at great personal inconvenience. There are 4 dhammas, or kingdoms of God, which represent the planets of the spiritual sky, which consist of the Brahmajyoti and the Vaikunthas. These are Badrik Ashram, Rameshwar, Jagannath Puri, and Dwarka. Faithful Hindus still visit all these holy places for perfection of spiritual realization, following in the footsteps of devotees like Uddhava. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta Purport to the 22nd verse, 4th chapter, 3rd canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
I offer my respectful obeisances onto the lotus feet of His Divine Grace, Srila Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened our eyes with the torch of knowledge although they were certainly shut by the darkness of ignorance. When will Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within the material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his holy lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Here's some sweets, Abhi. You can try to divide up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 6 sweets and 8 people, so you have to figure that out. Yeah, somehow. So here Srila Prabhupada, according to the verse, is putting an emphasis on visiting the holy places of pilgrimage for our purification. Srila Prabhupada, of course, emphasized this for his disciples and the ISKCON society in general. And we see that his disciples have went out of their way to make pilgrimage as convenient as possible, just as Srila Prabhupada did, and is exciting and as adventurous as possible. Devotees establish these safaris and these tours where there's a lot of devotees who are somewhat familiar with one another. Generally, it's being led by a person who may be their Diksha Guru or an associate of their Diksha Guru, and so you get a lot of those particular disciples. But others can join in also, and they do. So this goes on all over Vrindavan, all over Mayapur, all over North India, along the Ganges, up into the Himalayas, and goes on down into the south, where actually there's a sort of commercial spiritual tourist industry. Just like in the West, you have these religious tours to the Holy Land of Israel. So similarly in South India, you can always catch one of these buses going to Tirupati or going to Sri Rangam or going to Rameshwar, which is mentioned here as one of the 4 abodes of the Lord in this world. So this is purification for us fallen conditioned souls who live within this materialistic world, which has gotten the greater advertisement and captured the mind of the vast, vast majority of the people. So to the extent that this whole spiritual side of life is sort of in the background, almost like static in the TV. You know, it's only known in people who are spiritual or very religious. You know, they're very familiar with it, and they take advantage of it, and you know they have the great opportunity to become a part of that world. Whereas in the material world, we're overcome with sporting events and different music and dance contests, and you know, all over the world, they all have their own little channels that capture local performers as well as anyone else who's interested in competing. And the minds of the people are completely captured by this, what to speak of their dharmas or their great and strenuous pursuit of education in order to perform some specific dharma. And they get completely immersed in it. They get immersed in making sufficient money so the American dream can be captured all over the world, meaning that a person has a nice home and a nice family and sufficient money to do as they like to do on their time off, and they can wear nice clothes and drive a nice car and all these other things that infatuate us. So who can concentrate on spiritual life in such an atmosphere? It's hardly possible. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada wanted his International Society for Krishna Consciousness to make Krishna available to the world in ways that they could appreciate. He often said things like, we could live underneath a tree like the Goswamis, but what good would that do? People aren't interested in such austerities. Just like here we see the sages Nara and Narayana have been performing these great austerities. No one knows them. They're just sitting in some snow-covered mountains, in deep, deep trance, performing this penance, not for their own welfare, but for our welfare. Sometimes we don't equate such activities as being for our welfare. We take it just the opposite. That, that is so austere, there's not possible, nor is there an interest. Even though it may even help our welfare, we don't have an interest in austerity, practically speaking. But to speak of doing it for the welfare of others. But these great sages are doing that. So, Srila Prabhupada said, who would be interested in staying under a tree? Mosquitoes are going to bite you, and the summertime, and you're going to be cold and catch pneumonia in the wintertime. Nobody has the strength of mind and body and soul to perform such feats. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada, he made, very nice temples. In India, he actually, brought the Western toilet even, because in India they use a different type of toilet in the East. It's a little bit more austere. It's considered cleaner in different ways, but, just for the convenience of Western folks who are habituated and used to certain facilities, he made that available. And we see his disciples, they've followed in his footsteps. They've done like that all over the world. You can go to any ISKCON temple. There's generally a guest house that people can rent. After all, they have money to rent hotels to go to Disneyland, to go to this theme park and that theme park, and to go to the Grand Canyon, to go to this and that, wherever the country may be. It has its sites. So they spend money there. So you would think that they would spend some of their money at the ISKCON facility, which offers a nice guest house and a restaurant. Because after all these events, to make these events possible, people have to eat. So they're going to all the fast food restaurants, and they're thinking that is such a wonderful diet. They're eating the various ethnic type of foods that are available around the world, and this way they're trying to enjoy their tongue and belly. And ultimately, for their sexual gratification. But in our Krishna consciousness movement, we're eating food that has been offered to Krishna, and that way we're becoming free from bad karma, free from material attachment, and we're actually becoming Krishna conscious, which means that Krishna is foremost within our mind, and not all the objects of this temporary world, which will dissolve and come to an end for each and every one of us. It is simply, ultimately, not real. It is just temporary. But what is real, we have no vision of. At least, speaking in general about the world, there's no vision of it. There's no advertisement of it. There's only some religious organizations in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness that are trying to give the opportunity for people to go back home to Godhead. And put an end to our problems in life. Otherwise, the problems persist. They never go away. They only seem to expand in an age like Kali Yuga. And we continue to suffer while just chewing the chewed, as Srila Prabhupada says in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, meaning that, we keep trying to get our pleasure from the same old things, going to the beach, going to the park, eating this, developing this type of mentality and that type of physique. I'm going to eat this, and I'm going to exercise like that, and I'm going to get, this job, and I'm going to live detached, or I'm going to fulfill all of my attachments. But it all simply peters out. And again, us poor souls keep trying. It says, samsara dava nadalita loka, like a blazing fire of repeated birth and death. It just keeps happening. But here the opportunity to go back home to Godhead, performing a lot less austerity than was performed previously. Certainly nothing to equate to the austerities of Nara and Narayana, and even great devotees like Haridas Thakur or Lord Chaitanya's immediate disciples, the Goswamis of Vrindavan. No, we can go to the ISKCON temple, we can eat prasadam, we can spend the night, we can somehow ever get up for Mangal Arati. If that's not possible, we can come at 7 o'clock, or we can come to class, we can hear these holy sounds, we can try to fix our mind on Krishna, we can go to a Rath Yatra or a Neva parade, we can even go on an adventure and spend some money. Instead of going to a theme park, we can go to one of the great places that are spiritual. And even if we get bit by a dog and happen to die there, then we go back home to Godhead. Whereas if we trip and fall here, we don't know where we're going. It's all based on our karma. No one can judge it. We may think that I've been good, I deserve this, and we may criticize the universal controllers of the laws. We may criticize them, but it only gets us in deeper water, something like a tar baby, where somehow ever we assume the position of being the whistleblower, the supreme critiquer of the universe. Just ignoring that the universal governors have found this fault in me, and it's their duty to correct it. What to speak of the spiritual master, so that we don't have to be corrected by the universal governors. He attempts to correct the defect of the disciple. And he offers, a critique and suggests that he does something else. Orders him to do something else even. And so will the disciple do it is another thing. Still, it's our opportunity, and it's made so easy for us compared to other times, where austerity is a great requirement. Here it's a requirement, but it's so much easier. It's so much easier just to chant the Mahamantra, try to fix our mind, take some prasadam, do some work for Krishna. But no, nobody wants to work for Krishna because Krishna doesn't pay enough. It doesn't matter what kind of benefits we get at the end. We're interested in the now. So, therefore, nobody takes an interest in working for Krishna. Not nobody, of course, all of us here, and so many people, devotees around the world. But, we have to try to, we try to inspire others, that's generally the difficulty. How am I going to support my family? How am I going to, pay my bills? I have a mother, who has this difficulty. My brother's, cripple, etc., etc. It goes on and on and on. So then we have to teach the science of Bhagavad Gita that, people can do this in the world, but at the same time they can be Krishna conscious. They can help Krishna, and they can help the devotees who somehow ever have become fortunate enough that they can devote full time. It's a great fortune to be able to live in the temple. It's not like it's for somebody who just doesn't have any economic viability or opportunity. No, it's a great privilege to be able to live full time in the temple and to serve the deities who are the lords of that place, and who by just coming before them, people become purified. The temple is the place where Krishna is residing in this world. And he's just as he's even more merciful here than in the spiritual world. The fallen souls can't get to see him in the spiritual world. I mean, even in Puri, a lot of people don't get to see him until he comes out. So here, everyone can come and see Krishna in this world. And so Krishna is more merciful. And, we can't understand how purification takes place. It's very difficult for his conditioned souls to have a realization of how Krishna is, how Krishna is purifying everyone that comes before him. And, unless we have some subjective experience where we walk out and we have an epiphany, or maybe down the line we realize, wow, I'm really becoming purified. I would have never bowed down before Krishna 10 years ago. I would have, never tried to think in a humble manner as, his eternal servant. I didn't have any faith. Unless people are born in with faith from their previous lives, who's going to have faith? We're indoctrinated in such an impersonal way that, the moon did this and everything in the universe came about like that. And, there was, they never give reference to a person. When was the last time you heard a scientist give reference that life has come from a person? No, that's put into the category of mythology, that's just to help people, be better in some way or another, or to have some folk stories that, are passed down through generations. No, they always talk in such impersonal, voidistic type of ways, to the extent that Buddha appeared just to give them some religion that they can follow because it advocates the same thoughts, practically speaking, for the source of life and the conclusion of life. So it's very difficult for people to have faith. But, over time, a person may notice, wow, I've gained some faith. I really do feel almost like a bhakta, like a devotee. I mean, devotee initially means that we have faith. If we don't have faith, how can we be a devotee? If you don't have faith, how can you be a devotee? No, so then, but you may know this. And where do we get that from? Just go back and read Prabhupada's books. Read the Nectar of Devotion. What is the emphasis of, the emphasis is that one comes to a temple, that one serves devotees, that they're doing things in a temple. Well, they're going on Sankirtan. It's where the devotees live. It's where pure devotees live. Practically speaking, where did Lord Chaitanya live? He lived at a temple. Even when he was at home, there was a temple in his home. Where did Srila Prabhupada live? He went from temple to temple. Temples that he had to make. And before that, he stayed at his godbrother's temples. And then he had a temple in his house. Every Hindu family has a temple in their house. But they all go to these ever big temples where all the Brahmins live. So, it's an amazing thing to become purified. We can just encourage people. With our own strength of faith, we can encourage them. If you come, you'll gain great faith in the Supreme Lord. You don't have to change your religion, but your faith is going to become stronger. To the extent that atheism will wash off of you like water on a duck's back, as they say. It'll just, it won't in any way turn your mind. You'll just see it for what it is. Somebody without faith, what are you going to believe? You're just going to make up all this stuff, based on looking through microscopes and telescopes. What happens to them? They had to like make one every 100 years. The one in Puerto Rico just fell down because they didn't take care of it well enough. You know, and they say, look, we see this and we see that. And they never see a person. But yet, you know, then you have this whole kind of pseudoscience of, you know, UFOs and all that, where they say, oh, there's these people coming from here, these people coming from there, and we're catching this type of wave and that type of wave. You know, they never see any persons. Why would any higher beings even want to reveal themselves to those persons? You know, higher beings are on a different level. They don't need these people's worship. They don't need these people's money. They don't need these people's faith. They just sometimes come here and try to help them to become more pious, you know, truthful, more merciful and clean rather than the opposite. Just to help them. So our job in the Hare Krishna movement is to help the whole world, just like Nara and Narayana. They're doing it through penance and meditation. We're doing it through, Prabhupada took the English word, you know, right out the Christian religion. We're doing it through preaching, you know, through teaching. You know, we have faith, so we teach this. Just like mathematicians have faith in their calculus and whatever it may be. You know, we have faith in our worship. You know, we teach it. You know, we know that if people do this, they're going to be better off. They're going to become a better person. People having a hard time being better people because they're constantly being dragged down by all the sinful things that are thriving on the earth today. They're constantly being dragged down. So, you know, how can they become better when, you know, just the opposite is going into their mouth and nose and ears and, you know, making them practically demoniac. So our Krishna consciousness movement is to make people better. You know, we give them the solution. You know, we teach them. And it may start as some sort of preaching, and they may ridicule us, just like they ridicule the Christians for just preaching. They don't like to hear that word. They don't like to hear the word religion, organized religion, or what to speak of sin. Sometimes it's better to say bad karma or spirituality. You know, terms that, you know, may have more of an appreciation for. So it's a great job, you know, just like Arjuna really appreciated his work. He was a great hero, and he was just cut out to be that. So in the same way, you know, we all cut out to be the Lord's devotee and to become his instrument, whether it's to bake something nice for him, or to decorate something nice for him, or to pick something nice for him, or to grow something nice for him, or to talk to somebody nicely for him, or to distribute his nectar in the form of singing his names, or what to speak of handing out Srila Prabhupada's books. I mean, his disciples made that the foremost service to Srila Prabhupada, to distribute his books. And to this day it remains like that. You know, devotees are always working on it. You know, Drew Miller hasn't been able to do his little gig down in the tourist section of New Orleans because nobody can go there. So he goes out to City Park and puts up a book table. And, I don't know, he's like ordered 3 cases of hardback Bhagavad Gitas over the past couple of weeks and 2 cases of Krishna books. And, you know, other hardback books. So, you know, it took him some time to be empowered. You can read his stories of how he became empowered. I mean, he was just, not just an ordinary Joe, he was just a never fallen Joe. Fallen Joe with all sorts of bad karmas and, you know, some luck here and some luck there, who became a devotee, and somehow ever became like his occupation, full time, to serve Prabhupada in this capacity, and he's very good at it. people like him and they listen to him. Not every single person who walks down the road, but he's not disturbed by those who don't care for what he's doing. So, it's getting late. Any comment or question before we stop here today?
It's interesting you mentioned about the alien thing, because right before you were saying that, you mentioned that the scientists never mentioned anything about a person in the source. And I started to think, wait a minute, that this that series that was basically based on Sariputta and Jutakarma's work. It's always, they always go back to some superior race, alien race, and they've come here and engineered us to do work for them.
Yeah, the UFO people.
So they actually have some concept that they're superior individuals.
Yeah, but they're like on the outskirts,
No, I know.
Those guys,
Yeah, well, but it's still, a lot of them are archaeologists. And
Yeah.
so it's interesting how
So they are there.
that preaching Sariputta started.
And he's so fortunate because he's just he's one of them who became Prabhupada's main scientific man practically.
Yeah. So I just find because they realize that what we have now, we couldn't have come up with it. At least that's what they think. That it had to be some superior race. But the superior race, where did they come from? So it is kind of an interesting little phenomenon. And then, just as I was thinking like that, you mentioned that concept, that alien thing.
And then we have those